Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Valide if you're new, and if you are, please consider subscribing. Today's video is going to be all about University of Leeds accommodation. So I've had a few questions asking me where should I go that's social but also an ensuite, or some people don't want an ensuite, some people want catering, some people don't want catering. So this video is going to be a lowdown of all the accommodations provided, or most of the accommodations provided at Leeds, and I've got my friends to do some reviews. So bear in mind, I was in first year in 2016, so 5 years ago now, almost. No, 5 years ago. And yeah, so things may have changed slightly since then, but hopefully this will still provide a lot of value to you. Okay, so the first thing I want to explain is the process of how you actually apply for accommodation at the University of Leeds, because there is a set process and you have to follow all the strict deadlines to make sure that you are successful in getting a place in accommodation at the university. Now, the university guarantee a bed for everyone who is coming into their first year as an undergrad, as long as you place Leeds as your firm option through UCAS and you apply by the deadlines. So even if you may not get your first choice, you will definitely get a university place. So that is really important, of course. You need somewhere to sleep whilst you're at uni. So I've got my laptop here, but I've got some notes down, so if I look down then you know what I'm doing. So yeah, the process is, first obviously you apply for your universities. Once you then get your offer from Leeds, you can start to apply for your accommodation. So during this step, you are obviously looking online to see what accommodations are for offer. You're deciding what is important to you in terms of your priorities, whether you want to be near campus, whether you want an ensuite, whether you want a really social accommodation versus a quiet one, whether you're an international student maybe and you want a high level of international students, or postgrad, for example. So you will get a form that you fill in online that you basically prioritize your preferences, and they will try and allocate you with as high up on your preference list as possible. But as well as that, you put your accommodation preference. So I think there's a lot of accommodations, probably over 10 in Leeds, that you can choose from. Okay, one thing to note is that it's not first come, first served. So don't think that if you, for example, got your offer late from Leeds, that you're at a disadvantage when you're choosing your accommodation, because it isn't first served. It is randomly allocated. And obviously a lot of university accommodations are more oversubscribed than others. So the chances of you getting your first option really depends on where you pick. But on average, they say that you are 60% likely to get your first choice of your accommodation. Now, of my friends that went to uni, barely any of us got our first choice. So yeah, I think I would take that number with a grain of salt, to be honest. So after you've submitted your application, you then are allocated a room, and this can happen between the 17th of July and the 1st of August. And then after that, you accept your contract and you come to university and you start living your university life in your new residence. Okay, so now for the bit that I'm sure you've all been waiting for, which is which accommodation do I choose? So I'm going to go through each accommodation, and for most of them, I do have reviews from my friends who've stayed in those places. So the first accommodation on the website is Luton, which is the cheapest accommodation. And here's what my friend had to say. So it's the cheapest accommodation. It's £90 when I was there. By the way, it's now £98. I did check the website. Good value for money because it's so much cheaper than the other halls and was decent quality. It was really social halls. Each block has 3 floors with 3 flats on each floor, and everyone knows everyone in the whole block. So it's a good place to make lots of friends. There are 5 people to a flat. It's in a really nice area of Headingley that has a lot of shops, pubs and restaurants. And yeah, Headingley is such a nice... So basically we have 2 student areas in Leeds. We have Hyde Park, where people tend to live in second year and third year. And then Headingley is a little bit further out, but it's still the student area, but it's a little bit nicer. They've got more shops there, more nice restaurants, and things like that. Yeah, she said also it's nearer to the start of the Otley Run, which is useful in first year. So the Otley Run is like a pub crawl that goes from Wheatwood, which is the playing fields, all the way to town. because it's this long stretch of road, and yeah, it's basically near the start of that. So that's good if that's what you're going to be doing in first year. It's about half an hour walk to uni, which is a lot further than others, so it might not be suitable for everyone, and the buses are pretty unreliable to uni. Also, you don't have washing machines in the flat, so you have to pay extra for your washing. It's about half an hour walk to uni, which is a lot further than others, so it might not be suitable for everyone, and the buses are pretty unreliable to uni. Also, you don't have washing machines in the flat, so you have to pay extra for your washing. Now, that is common among most university accommodations, although some do have washing facilities in their own block. So yeah, personally, I went to Luton to visit said friend, and I thought it's a relatively nice accommodation. It's, like she said, it's really cheap, but I just find it too far from uni. The walk was, like she said, half an hour, which is just too long for me. But if you're up for walking or you want to get a bus pass, although she did say the buses were unreliable, so definitely think about that. But yeah, it is a social hall, so you just got to weigh it up. So the next halls are North Hill Court, which I, to be honest, haven't even heard of. But from the website, it says it's quieter. It's less than 20 minutes from uni, and it can be between £93 to £119, and it is self-catered. So, I mean, I don't really have much to say because I don't know anyone that was there, and also, I don't even know where it is. So, there's not really much I can say about that one, unfortunately. Okay, the next accommodation is called Oxley, and Oxley is the furthest halls out from the university. So, like I said, I don't like walking, so I definitely would not go to this place. It is next to Wheatwood, which is the university playing field. So if you play hockey or football or lacrosse or any of those kind of sports where you need a field to play, just most sports actually, it is close to there, and that's what they use as a selling point when you go on the website, is that it's close to there and it has its own music room, it has its own gym. But to me, it's just so far out. Like, I don't think I would end up going to uni if I had to spend like an hour commute there and back, an hour commute there, an hour commute back. So although it is cheaper and it does have some perks, for me it's not worth it. Blenheim Point is a postgrad accommodation that is close to uni, but again, I don't really know it, so I can't give that much advice on that one. Central Village is a accommodation that people like always ask me about, because it's close to uni, it's en suite, it's relatively new, so quite modern. So it has a lot going for it, but here's what two of my friends had to say. Because it was quite a popular accommodation, I wanted to get two different perspectives. So here we go. Number one, I think the value for money isn't too bad. Each room has an ensuite, which is great. However, the rooms are a bit smaller than the others, and this is just due to the layout of the flat. So it basically is just luck, whichever you're given. There is a generous sized kitchen and living area, but the size of this depends too. Some are much bigger. Regarding social life, depends on the people in your flat. I think you just have to make an effort to knock on other flat doors and get to know one another if you want to get to know new people. Look, it's me. However, it is definitely a bit quieter than other accommodations, but still social. There are Facebook group chats for blocks, which is a great way to meet people in your accommodation if you wanted to. It's an amazing location, so you could easily walk into town and to campus, which I loved. And that is a really good thing to know. It is right between. So this is a city centre. This is Woodhouse Lane, which is like the main road that goes up to uni. So you've got the city centre, you've got Dry Dock, you've got, which is like a restaurant pub place, then you've got Central Village, then you've got uni. And so it's probably like less than a 10-minute walk into the centre of campus, which is amazing. Some say social, some say not, but here's what my second friend had to say. I really enjoyed my time at Central Village. The location was great, modern halls, good security, right on campus, Tesco Express in one of the buildings, and even had a gym in the halls, which you could access, which is a bit quieter than the main uni gym, which is the Edge. I was very lucky in first year that I got on with my flatmates. I think this would have been an issue if I didn't, because I didn't find that many people mixed between the flats, unlike some accommodations where it's really sociable. I found this. However, that's not to say that other building blocks in Central Village were unsociable, as I can only speak for my block/floor. One of the biggest downsides of Central Village is the price, as it's quite expensive. However, I think this is balanced with good security, convenient spot in town, and you're basically on campus too, and also nice surroundings. I'd happily live there again. So there's two different views on living in Central Village. Thinking back now, like Leeds is generally a cheap-ish like city for accommodation to live, versus some of the universities down south. So I think it's around 140, which imagine if you were in London, 140 would be amazing. But up north, it's actually probably on more of the expensive side. So that is something to bear in mind. But obviously you can just do your research on what your price range is and sort it out from there. Okay, so the next accommodation is the most expensive one available at Leeds, which is Charles Morris Hall. It's just so expensive. It's like almost 200, or maybe even is £200 a week. A month? A week? No, a week. Oh my gosh. That's actually so expensive. But you can see why when you go inside. It is very modern. There's the room, well, the kitchen and communal spaces is big. It is catered, which is also why it's more expensive. And yeah, although the rooms are quite small, so I mean, they've got good security, they've got good communal facilities and things like that. So I mean, it's up to you to decide whether it is worth it for you or not. But here's what my friend had to say. Perhaps the biggest advantage of Charles Morris is how close it is to campus. That's true, it's actually on campus. It's literally a 5 to 10 minute walk to anywhere on campus and 15 minutes into town, which saves a lot of Uber money on nights out. The Storm Jameson complex is completely en suite and the rooms are modern. Debris is older with bathrooms shared between 2 people. All the rooms are pretty small, but this is normal for uni accommodation. Being fully catered is compulsory in this accommodation. You receive about £11 to spend daily at the refectory at any time of day, so it's nice to be flexible when you eat, and the food is generally good with a wide selection of hot and cold food. Although, let me just butt in, it is good and the food is good, but one, the money doesn't roll over, so if you don't spend your £11, you lose it. 2, on a Saturday, basically you only get like, is it half of that? So I think on a Saturday you can really only get like 2 meals from it, or yeah, I think you can only get 2 meals from it. So it ends up not being, you still have to like buy food anyway. So it's not like you sit down and you get 3 meals, you go to the refectory and then you choose your meal, and then you can like, yeah, it depends. But basically it depends how expensive the food is that you want to purchase in the refectory. But on a Saturday you get less money on your card, so just bear that in mind. In the Storm Jameson complex, it's not split into dorms, but rather you have access to an entire floor of people. So it's not like one flat of 6 or something, it's literally the whole floor. This is nice as you can meet people that aren't necessarily the ones you share a kitchen with, but it can feel less personal. Also, as the kitchens aren't used, obviously because it's catered, so you just eat in the refectory, they can feel a bit clinical and unhomely, as we didn't really use them much. There were a few socials, a couple of times we had drinks in the foyer, which was nice, but I have heard other accommodations have more creative socials. It is one of the more expensive accommodations, so there are a lot of privileged people there, and I personally didn't realise how many people already knew each other from home. It may have just been the year that I stayed there, but there were many people from London who knew each other from home and were therefore not so keen on making friends. It may not have the family dorm style feel of other accommodations, but you do have access to so many people, so you'll definitely find people you click with. Some of my friends from Charles Morris are my best friends to this day. So some pros, some cons, obviously you make your decision. The next accommodation is called Cityside, which is basically right next to Central Village, and I don't really know much about this accommodation other than it's got its own gym. It's modern, and I think it is pretty similar to Central Village in terms of its facilities. I think you've got 24-hour surveillance, and you've got a concierge to collect your packages from. So yeah, whatever I said about Central Village probably applies just as much to Cityside too. The next accommodation is called Liberty Dock. Now, Liberty Dock is another one that is very far out, but the other way. So if, like I said, where Oxley was is where the Wheatwood playing fields are, then, so Wheatwood, Headingley, so Headingley is where Luton is, you've got Hyde Park, then you've got Uni, then you've got like Central Village and Cityside just next to Uni, then you've got Town, and then like off the screen you've then got this next accommodation, which is Liberty Dock. So again, it's very, very far out. You tend to have to take a bus, or it will take you, I think, about an hour, if not more, to walk to campus. And bear in mind, Leeds University is on the top of a hill, so whatever accommodation, pretty much, unless you're on campus, you are in, you're going to be walking up the hill. So bear that in mind too, because you're in Yorkshire. So my friend said it's £126 a week in 2016 for an ensuite room and flat of 6, but most were 5s. It was relatively new and nice, but the flats didn't have living rooms, so we spent our lives sitting on comfy plastic chairs. Definitely not good value for money. So far away. About 40 minutes walk to the nearest bit of campus, hence why no one actually chose the block. Although long, the walk back from uni was really nice. Through town and along the canal, a bit too tempting in terms of shopping though. Walking distance to quite a few places for night sight, Beaverworks, Hi-Fi, Call Lane, but OMG took so long in a taxi to get to Headingley for a Notley. It was also walking distance, or for like 5 minutes on the bus to the train station, and very close to the bus station too, so that was very handy. We all said that despite it being a bit of a rip-off and far away, we wouldn't have changed it for the world because of how sociable it was. The layout of the flats meant that our floor basically became one big flat, and I think this happened for a lot of other floors too, I think. Also, OMG, how could I forget the water taxi? That was so cute. The next accommodation is called Devon J Halls. So this is in quite an old building. It's in Headingley, and so it's a bit further out if you want to walk to uni. But I've got another review to read. So Devon is old but charming and in a beautiful building, and it has a good family feel to it. It's very popular with music, arts and drama students, and the accommodation itself puts on lots of shows and productions. During freshers, there are cute socials like movie nights that give a great opportunity to meet people. It's divided up dorm style with about 5 people to a kitchen. The kitchens are basic but homely, and you can choose whether to be catered for or cater for yourself. Oh, I didn't actually realise that. I thought it was all catered, so I guess you've got the option there if you want to be catered or not. It often gets a rep for being far from uni, but it really isn't that bad. You can walk into campus in 20 minutes or 15 minutes if you're in a rush, which doesn't feel long at all. It is one of the cheaper options for uni accommodations and will give you a great uni experience. Definitely one of the best value for money accommodations. Plus, it's super pretty and good for photo opportunities before balls. Like anything, it always depends on the people you end up sharing with, which is potluck at the end of the day. But everyone I know who stayed there doesn't regret it one bit. So she noted a really good thing there is that really and truly, no matter where you stay, you could have an amazing or a horrible experience depending on the people that you live with. And obviously you don't get to choose who you live with. You basically are just put in a flat and you find out when you get there, or before if you find each other on Facebook before. But it's difficult because there's nothing really you can do about who you get put with. Unless you decide to go private and you know someone anyway, and then you just hire a house. But I wouldn't really recommend that in first year because obviously you just want to get to know as many people as possible, and accommodations are the best place to do that. So yeah, unfortunately that's nothing that's kind of out of your control, but just pray you get good flatmates. The next accommodation is called Ellis Global Residence. So by the name you can kind of tell that it's quite an international accommodation. So I think it's about half UK students, half international, which is really nice because you get to meet different people from different countries. So I can imagine it to be a very, very social accommodation. Although saying that, I don't know anyone who was there, so I can't really speak too much on that. But it is on campus, which is obviously really nice because you don't have to wake up too early for your lectures. You can pretty much roll out of bed and get to your lectures straight away. Grayson Heights is a postgrad accommodation. So again, I don't know much about this, although it is affordable and it's often there for like mature students. So people that join university later in life tend to live here over some other accommodations that are more for, you know, people that just come straight out of college. The next accommodation is called Henry Price, and this accommodation is basically right next to the business school and pretty much on campus. It's a huge accommodation and it's right opposite the park called Woodhouse Moor. And this is just the park that is between Uni and Hyde Park, so it's always really busy with students. They do really good fireworks nights, and yeah, there's just always students there. So that's besides the point because we're talking about accommodation here. And Henry Price is, I've toured people around Henry Price, though I've never stayed there, neither do I know anyone who's lived there. And this is the only accommodation that is on campus that is self-catered. So if you want to be on campus but you don't want to be catered, then this is the only one for you. Most of the accommodations are not en suite, although there are a few rooms that are en suite, but mostly you just share between 2 or 3 people. And then there's about 7 to 8 people to a flat, and that flat will share one kitchen. I think it's quite a nice accommodation, although I can't tell you how social it is because I've never really been there when other people have been there. So
it's me again. But on a serious note, actually, it's a good way to make money if you take pictures for the accommodation. I mean, you literally earn like £10 just sitting there doing nothing and posing like I am.
I can't really speak to that, although it is a relatively good price considering it's on campus. So okay, so the next accommodation is called IQ, and this is next to Leodus, which is basically down the huge hill that, imagine universities here. You've got Montague Barrera, Leodus, and IQ. And so IQ, yeah, is right at the bottom of the hill, but it's run in partnership with a different company, which is, it's just called IQ Student Accommodation. So IQ Student Accommodation and Leeds University both run this halls. It's not too far from the university. It's probably about 10 to 15 minute walk, depending on how fast you can walk up a hill. You've got a gym on site, which is nice. You have common areas, you've got ensuite rooms. Okay, so the next accommodation is called James Bailey, or I think the website calls it James Bailey Park, but everyone just calls it James Bailey. And this is probably the most social halls that are on offer at the University of Leeds. So I've heard that you never really can sleep because there's always music, like at whatever time, just being played really loudly. It's just, I mean, it's a lot. If you want to literally just come to uni and be a social animal, then maybe it's the place for you. But apart from that, I've heard it's difficult to get work done because it's just literally always very, very loud. But I guess the pros to that is that you meet a lot of people. It is a very social flat, very social halls. Also, they have the option to either be en suite or share a bathroom or have a studio. Obviously, the price differs depending on what you choose. And if you are sharing a bathroom, it's shared between 2 other people. And then in your flat, there'll be about like 4 to 6 people in the flat that share a kitchen too. So it's quite a nice option, although I would say it's about halfway between Headingley and uni. So it's near Devonshire, so about 15-20 minute walk to campus. Okay, the next accommodation to discuss is called Leodus. Now, Leodus, like I said, is at the bottom of that hill, that gigantic hill that kills every single person that comes to Leeds. So yeah, it's at the bottom of that hill. It is en suite, which is nice. The flats are about flat of 6. And here's what my friend had to say. The staff was rude. I'm 100% sure one of them stole one of my parcels. I once asked for help and the auntie said I should wait for her to finish her cigarette.
Hello, me again.
Well, they allow you to choose what kind of person you want to live with: female only, mixed, non-alcohol, etc. Kitchen and living room, and my room was spacious. I don't know what they did with my searches and I ended up with 2 men who are drinkers. It was an ensuite. To uni, it was about a 10-minute walk, but that hill, the blood of Jesus. I started taking Uber second semester. I physically couldn't do it anymore. It discouraged me from going to a lot of lectures, I'm not gonna lie. like I already didn't want to go but then climb that hill. So you can see that this person really, really was affected by that hill, and I can vouch for her that that hill is just disgusting. Like, it's just the worst thing ever. Although saying that, if you literally don't mind the walk, then it is fine, and it's a nice accommodation, relatively social. Okay, next accommodation is the Leodus Hall, which is another accommodation that is right on campus. It is catered, so again, you get that card that I was talking about when I mentioned Charles Morris, and you use it to eat in the refectory. So it's £11 a day. Similarly, it's Victorian houses based on campus. You can have both ensuite or shared bathroom in this accommodation. There's about 150 rooms. But yeah, like I said, it is catered. I'm not really sure, again, how sociable it is, because I don't know anyone that's been there. The rooms look huge from the pictures though. My gosh. It looks like you get your own sink too in the corner of your room, which is nice. Although you share a bathroom, so it looks really nice. How much is it? Oh, whoa. It's expensive. Wow. Because it's catered, that's why. But it's so expensive. Like £200 a week again. Okay, the next accommodation is my accommodation, which was Montague Barrera. I think it was the best accommodation ever. It's halfway down that hill that I was talking about before with Leodus, and even me, I was like, oh, the hill is just so horrible. Although it was only like a 5-10 minute walk to campus, so you kind of could bear it. But to be honest, sometimes I did wake up and I was like, I'm just not feeling the hill, so I wouldn't go. But the good thing about the accommodation is how close it is to campus, so you can literally like leave 5 minutes before your lecture. Also, because lectures start at 5 past the hour, so sometimes I would literally leave at o'clock and get there on time, depending on where on campus it was, of course. So the flats are shared between 9 people, which is quite a lot, to be honest. And I think there's 2 different sizes of flats, so there's 9 and then I think 4. They were refurbished the year that I moved in, so they now will be like 4 or 5 years old. Okay, so the pros of this accommodation is that it's cheap, it's close to uni, it's relatively modern because it's just been refurbished. Kitchens are quite big, the social area is quite nice, you've got a barbecue area outside. However, you don't have a common room, which is kind of annoying because you don't always want to be outside, especially in the winter. So in that sense, will you get to meet that many people? I mean, I feel like in freshers you end up just meeting people anyway, so despite the fact that we weren't really outside a lot, like we still ended up meeting a lot of people from the different blocks. Like I said, I was in a flat of 9 and the bathrooms were shared between 3 people. So yeah, 1 to 3, not too bad. The kitchens were a good size. We had 2 hobs, 2 ovens. The rooms are a good size too, and just so much storage. Like, I don't think I used all the storage, but you literally just get so much storage. The one thing that is annoying is that the office is only open like, I think it was 10 to 4. Like most accommodations, they have an office where the concierge is, that you can get your parcels from or whatever, and it's 24 hours, which is great. But our accommodation was only, like the office was only open like 10 to 4. So if you had lectures 9 to 5, you just could never get your parcel, and you couldn't get anyone else to take it from you because you had to give them your ID card. So frustrating because sometimes you literally just couldn't get your parcel for like 5 days unless you didn't go to uni, which just seems a bit off. I don't know if they changed that by now. Obviously it's 5 years later, so you'd hope they would have taken on some of our criticisms. But what else would I say? It was a really social accommodation. At least my flat was very social. It's in a good location apart from the hill. It's close to uni, it's close to town, it's close to the Leeds Student Medical Centre, which is good. It is, I honestly, like, honestly speaking, I think it was like the best the best accommodation, and I didn't even apply for it. Like, I applied for Central Village and didn't get it, but I'm really, really glad I ended up at Montague Barrera. Oh my gosh, I literally forgot to mention, we have washing machines in our flats in Montague Barrera, which is like the best thing, because not a lot of accommodations have that. And if you didn't have that, you have to pay extra to then go and wash your clothes. Like, whereas in our accommodation, literally it was just in the kitchen, so there wasn't a dryer, so you just had a clothes horse and you could dry your clothes like that. But literally that saved so much money, and I was only paying £105 a week. I think it has gone up a little bit since then, but it's just the best value for money in my opinion. And they have really good socials. We had the balls. Accommodation balls are like the best. The best. Oh my gosh. I'm just looking at the pictures to this Royal Parks flats. And I think I never knew it was university accommodation, but I actually know where it is. Okay, so it's right on Royal Park Road. That makes so much sense. Okay, so Royal Park flats are I think it's a postgrad accommodation. Yeah, it's a postgrad accommodation that is based in Hyde Park, which is obviously where, like I said before, where the majority of students live in their second and third year. So it's really good in the sense that you have students everywhere. Ooh. Okay, I'm even reading on the website, they also have a washing machine and dryer in the accommodation, which is great. You share a bathroom, which some people don't like, but there is outdoor space, barbecue area, which is nice. Obviously, it's a postgrad accommodation, so undergrads can't apply to this one, but it's in a really good location too. Although, like I said, the university is on the top of a hill, so it's going to be a walk up that Royal Park. Royal Park Road. That hill is also, yikes. That hill is just not nice. Not nice at all. Okay, the next accommodation is called Sentinel Terrace. Now, this is kind of in a different location, and it's quite close to the Tannery, which is another accommodation at the University of Leeds. It's also close to a Leeds Beckett, like their main accommodation in the city, because I think they have two campuses, like one in Headingley and one in the city centre. So this is like their accommodation for the city centre. So it's next to there. So like, as you can imagine, there's a lot of students around there, which is nice, although it's not near all the rest of the University of Leeds accommodation. I helped people move in here in my final year, just before Freshers Week, just to earn a bit of money. And from what I noticed, it is quite, it seemed quite quiet. I don't know if that's because people were just moving in. There's a lot of international students. I actually didn't see many UK home students at all when I was there. Although I don't know whether international students moved in earlier than home students, just so they had, I think they do. They have an international welcome week before the UK home students move in, so maybe that's why. But it's an ensuite. You share a kitchen between your flat, which is around about 4 to 6. There is a washer, like a washing facilities on site, but you do have to pay for that. So the next accommodation is called the Tannery, and this accommodation is next to Sentinel Terrace, just behind. So it'll be about a 15-20 minute walk into university, although again up a hill, and this time it's not just a hill, it's like stairs. But imagine, in Kung Fu Panda, that scene where he thinks he's like walked up like 5 flights of stairs and he's only walked 2 steps. Like, that's how you feel like going up those stairs. It is just horrible. But that is what you get when you come to Leeds. Like, you're coming to Yorkshire, which is just very hilly. So pretty much whatever accommodation, if you're on campus, you're going to be walking up a hill. But yeah, this accommodation is quite close to town, which is nice. It also has some essential shops and things like that nearby. Has laundry facilities, although you do have to pay for those. You share a kitchen between three to 5 other people. Now, I have to say, my friend who reviewed this did not like it at all. So that is just something to note about this accommodation. And someone who went here really, really, really didn't like it and wouldn't recommend. So that also could be because she didn't have a good flat as well, so it is the risk you take. Okay, so this last accommodation that's offered by uni is called White Rose View, and it's based in the city centre, although I think it's just been finished being built, because I remember like in final year walking into town and it was being built at the time, so I think it's just finished now. So obviously it's really, really modern, which is nice. I'm just looking at the pictures now. Oh my gosh, they've got a cinema room. Whoa, it looks so nice. Although it is, it's not just a University of Leeds accommodation, it's run in partnership with Unite. So there'll be people from other universities that are staying at this accommodation too, which might actually be quite nice because you get to meet different people. It's really close to Central Village and City Side, so it's like closer to town, but still not too far walk from uni, which is really good. They're all en suite. You share a kitchen between either 3 or 6 other people. And yeah, really close to uni, really close to town. But of course, as all of them, you have to walk up a hill to get to uni. Okay, £158 a week, which is, it's expensive, but I mean, you get a cinema room. So it looks so nice. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. Finally, okay, so these last 2 are private accommodations that aren't necessarily offered by the University of Leeds, but you can go there. So the first one is called Liberty Park. And I don't know much about this accommodation, but from what, I'll just read what my friend said. She said, I wouldn't recommend it for Uni of Leeds people because it's sponsored by the arts. Okay, so Leeds College of Art. And there's no common room. It was a nice place to stay at, but if you want to make friends, I wouldn't really recommend it. So maybe don't go to that one. And then finally, My Student Village, which is, yeah, my friend stayed at this place after she got, okay, yeah. So she originally got Liberty Dock, but too far out. So she changed to this accommodation, which is My Student Village. And this is what she had to say. I have mixed feelings about my first year accommodation. My room was an ensuite and of great size for the price I was paying, which was £104 a week, which is actually really cheap. Whoa, £104 a week. And it's like in town, it's like next to the First Direct Arena. However, the rest of the flat was a bit of a letdown. The kitchen was the kitchen was fine size-wise, but it was really not the cleanest and nicest place to be, so much that we spent all of our time in each other's bedrooms instead of in the lounge. Social life was a bit dead, so we mostly went to other people's accommodations to party. It was a mix between private accommodation and university allocated, so there were a lot of overseas students who liked to keep to themselves, which probably affected the social life. Other than that, nothing much more to say, other than it was a really safe place with 24/7 surveillance. I did meet my best friends in that accommodation, so I wouldn't have rather been anywhere else. And that is a nice place to end this video, because I'm hoping it's not going to be too long, but I think after this it's going to be a very long video. But hopefully this gave you a lot of useful advice about where to stay and what to look for basically when you come to the University of Leeds and you're looking for accommodation. One thing I would say is, honestly, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day where you get put. It's honestly just who you live with, because that's going to determine whether you have a good or a horrible time in your first year. But I would recommend, even if you do get on with your flat, to make friends with other people in your block and other people in your accommodation, and even look outside of that too. So yeah, I hope this video was useful, and if it was, then you can give me a thumbs up and like this video and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, leave any comments below if you stayed in any of these accommodations and have any advice, or if you have any questions, you can also leave a comment and I'll try and get back to you as quick as possible. So thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!